Welcome to Red Dead Redemption 2. I've added 100 mods in order to turn this game into a western zombie apocalypse. This is a story about Arthur Morgan. He has been seriously down on his luck, and this is the final leg of his journey. Arthur Morgan is an expert pelt trapper and hunter, and he's been on a journey to get his exquisite pelts all the way to Saint Denis. This is how it went. Fortunately, Arthur survived that grizzly bear attack and barely escaped with just a few scratches. Sadie, Zombie John, and Joel had Arthur's back through thick and thin. Arthur did need to rest though from that traumatic experience, but upon waking up the next day, those dangerous bears were still dead on the street. It was time to add their pelts to Arthur Morgan's collection. So Arthur spent the morning skinning those bears and stowing those pelts in the wagon. It was quiet today so far. No zombie sightings, just the fresh air and the smell of freshly skinned bears. We loaded the wagon with our final pelt, and then we did a final walk around of our wagon. We had to make sure it was ready for our final journey over to Saint Denis. The wood looked good, and we repaired a small gash in the canvas. But soon after the inspection, a storm rolled in. The weather was pretty wild this season, and you never knew when a storm would just sweep in. It was better to wait out the storm though, so we headed to the saloon to waste some time. We did have an unfortunate event occur though. The guy didn't look the way Arthur looked, and he challenged Arthur to a duel. That was his mistake though. Arthur don't play around like that. A few more hours went by, and the storm just got worse. It looked like there was invisible tornadoes. A horse was flying through the air. Poor horse. And we attempted to get our cart and try to store it somewhere a little bit safer. But as soon as we got close, it stirred up in the storm as well. What the hell? At least it left some pelts behind. So we grabbed our pelt and headed back to the saloon to secure it. It was bad enough there were zombies everywhere, but this storm was crazy. Arthur and the team chilled in the saloon until the storm died down. We had to see if we could find our wagon. And fortunately, the wagon landed right in front of the saloon, unharmed. What a coincidence. We loaded our pelt back in the wagon, and it was time to depart. We spent too long in Valentine, and Arthur's been trying to get to Saint Denis for what seems like years now. So we marked our map and we set off on our final journey. We had a great team. Sadie, Zombie John Marston, Joel Miller, they all brought something to the team. And Arthur, he was certainly grateful. So we left Valentine, Joel Miller in the seat, and Sadie, John, and Buddy guarding the back. It was nice and peaceful on the trail for once as well. Maybe this was a good sign. The snow seemed to be clearing up as well. Spring was coming, but with warmer temperatures, that meant more zombies as well. So we continued cautiously down the trail, and we saw another wagon on the trail. This one didn't make the journey, and we had to make sure we made ours. But we did run into something unfortunate. Our horses got spooked on the trail by some zombies, and our cart ended up hitting a rock. Our wooden wheel couldn't beat the rock, so we had to get out and defend the wagon. The zombies came, and Arthur and his team slayed. They were fighting all the way till sunset, and it seemed like they would never stop. We finally slayed the last zombie for now, and we needed to repair the wheel. Luckily, we did have a repair kit in the horse, but night had fallen, and it would be difficult to repair the wheel now. We had no choice but to wait it out. We had to be vigilant. The zombies were more aggressive at this time, so we dealt with incoming waves of zombies, protecting our precious pelts. There ain't no way we're failing. Arthur and the team came too far. Zombie after zombie came though, but it was alright. We were experienced in dealing with zombies at this point, but they did have the numbers. We still had to be careful. So there came a point where a huge horde of zombies came, and somehow we survived. But one of them knocked Sadie down. She was writhing in pain, and the zombies were making it difficult to extract her. So Arthur tried his best, and the zombie knocked the gun out of his hand 3 times. But then we finally got the upper hand. We knocked out the last zombie along with John Marston on accident, and we got Sadie out of there before the zombies got her. We loaded her in the wagon, and we grabbed Zombie John too. We almost didn't find him. He looked like all the rest of the zombies, but we loaded him in the back as well. Now I don't know what Joel Miller was doing, but hopefully he was just scouting ahead. It was just Arthur and Buddy now. In the middle of the night with the moon glowing, we stayed up and protected the wagon, keeping an eye out for zombies. We listened for footsteps or the sounds of moans and groans, but it was a quiet night. It seems we took out all the zombies in the area. Morning had finally hit. Arthur was tired as hell, but he still managed to get the wagon fixed. Sadie was feeling a lot better. Zombie John Marston woke up from his zombie sleep, and Joe Miller came back as well. He said there was a campsite up ahead that we can go eat and have some coffee at before we journey ahead. Arthur definitely needed some caffeine in his system. He was going on no sleep. But as they left, a zombie came and grabbed Sadie from the back. We had to go rescue her, so we shot an arrow through the head. Don't worry, Sadie, we got you. We got back on the wagon and continued towards the campsite. We made it to the campsite, and there was a guy already dead there. We looked around to see if there was any zombies still nearby, and the coast was clear for now. So we sat by the campfire and brewed a nice pot of coffee. We didn't get to enjoy it though. There were zombies inbound. Arthur let loose a flurry of bullets, and we shot each and every one of those zombies dead. This apocalypse apocalypse was getting worse. More zombies kept appearing every day. We finally rounded up the last of them and sat by the fire one more time. We had some coffee, but now we needed to refuel for the day. Luckily, we had some bear meat on stock, so we grilled up some bear meat and had ourselves a protein-filled breakfast. Now, normally Arthur would catch some Z's, but we were too close to rest now. That cup of coffee would have to do. We grabbed some weapons from our storage horse and we got back on the wagon. It's time to go to Saint Denis. We did a little zombie hunting on the trail as well. After all, the less zombies that were on the road, the better life would be for fellow travelers. Our wagon was holding up thanks to Arthur's repair job, and it was smooth sailing. I don't know why Arthur didn't do this in the first place. Getting pelts to Saint Denis on foot with a pelt pack horse would have never made it. As we continued down the trail though, another storm had hit. It started to rain hard, and thunder and lightning were roaming the sky. We had to see if we could find some shelter, and we found an abandoned farm. We parked the wagon and secured the area. Zombies must love pelts or something, because they came in numbers here as well. But we took care of them. We tried to see if one of the abandoned houses were accessible, but it was locked up tight, barricaded on the other side of the door. So we looked around the property for anywhere else. We had to see if we could find somewhere dry. On the back of the farm there was an overhead though. It kept us plenty dry. We just had to wait out the storm. And wait we did. Until nighttime came. Hopefully we stay here till the morning without any zombie mayhem. That was wishful thinking though. Zombies came once again, and it was a gunfight on the farm. We were shooting and tooting. We just had to be careful not to get overran. It was a small horde thankfully though, so we took out any zombies that came. Some of them did sneak by though, and Arthur had to deal with them personally. We couldn't stay here. We had to move. We had to move, storming or not. So we saddled up on the wagon, and it looked like Joe Miller got knocked out. So I got him in the wagon, then assisted Sadie, taking out a zombie that was a whooping on her, and now we were off. We rode through the storm, dodging zombies on the road, trying not to crash into any more rocks, and finally we made it to the morning. Arthur was on 2 days of no sleep now. Most people go crazy at this point. We continued on the road, and we saw a small community be overrun by zombies, but we couldn't risk it for the biscuit. We could have potentially died if we tried to save them, so we had to keep moving. We made it to the swamps, and this is the farthest Arthur has ever been to get into Saint Denis. He was excited, and down the trail we ran to a small town called La Grasse. It was time to take a little breather. We've been sitting on that wagon for hours now, and Arthur's never been to this town before. So we got the blood flowing in his legs, did some squats. We had to keep a firm booty, even in the zombie apocalypse. And then we took a small walk around the town. It seemed pretty quiet except for a few zombies, and we unfortunately didn't get here in time to save this family. But that's the life we live in today. We decided not to waste any more time over here, and we got back on the path of the pelt. We could almost smell Saint Denis, or maybe that was just all the zombie blood on us. We progressed to the swampy trails and end up crossing the bridge that connects us into Saint Denis. We finally made it, and the city was gorgeous. Snow covered the streets. There were people walking the streets, and they didn't seem to be in fear. That means there were no zombies near. This was the only safe haven in the zombie apocalypse, the only town that had never been infested before. And we finally made it. We hopped out of our cart and we grabbed our pelts. It was time to finally sell these babies. But not everything is this simple. There was a breach in the Saint Denis wall, and a couple of the townspeople were bitten. These fresh zombies invaded the market, and it was up to Arthur to clear them out. Nobody else in the town had experienced zombies like this, but Arthur was ready for the job. We hacked and slashed. We didn't come this far to die now. So we slayed 10, maybe even more zombies just to get these pelts here. Ain't nothing was stopping Arthur. Not this time. We dropped off our pelts, picked up our gold and Sadie, and it was time for a little R&R. Arthur's been sleepless for 2 days now, so we took a nice scenic walk throughout the streets of Saint Denis, and we headed to the saloon for a little rest and relaxation. And this one was even nicer than the one in Valentine. We really upgraded in life. We had a couple victory shots, but now there was a new worry in Arthur's mind. This was supposed to be the only city that wasn't infected, yet there was an outbreak in the middle of the market. For now, Arthur would stay here because he knew his services would be needed. This pelt trapper was just getting started, and this new outbreak in Saint Denis was changing everything.